Garland in the corner. He's got it. Feed stand. Powell with the running in. Mitchell shakes up to the basket and thunders it home. Oh! Mobley throws it down. And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network, without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. A strong performance from Darius Garland was not enough to get by the Charlotte Hornets in overtime. Evan Mobley is going to miss some time with a calf strain, and joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Doing okay. Just made ginger snaps with the babies.
Ooh, nice.
Right before bedtime, and I take no pleasure in it. They slap. I don't want to, pat myself in the back too hard, but we have a great ginger snap recipe in this house, and just when they're fresh and they're just melting, the key is you make them a little thicker. Like if you get them from a store, they're like crunchy. Mm-hmm. You want them soft. Oh, they're so good.
Well, it sounds like you're making ginger slaps instead of ginger snaps. How about that? As I mentioned at the top, we got some news that Evan Mobley will miss the next 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain. This seems to be something that's going around the NBA where we're seeing more and more instances of these calf strains popping up. The Athletic did a really good job article of that. And the other component of that is that teams are being more cautious when it comes to calf strains. Obviously, we have seen a sharp increase over the last couple of years of Achilles injuries. That is in the NBA and the NFL. So no surprise that the Cavs are being cautious with this. Said it's a grade 1 strain. Historically, Evan Mobley tends to beat recovery timelines. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of just meet that timeline where it's at, given, the concerns that people have with that. You wouldn't associate with that with someone Mobley's age, but I totally understand the team being cautious there.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the whole league's got PTSD regarding this. My co-host has PTSD regarding this. You just don't mess with Cavs these days. So it's a bummer, especially with other members of the team coming back. Obviously, Jarrett came back against the Hornets, but it just kind of has been one of those seasons, man, where, it's one step forward, 2 steps back in just about every capacity, and that includes health. And, that's one of the bummers about health is like there's no like fairness die that says, oh, well, you've only been so beat up, so now your risk of injury elsewhere goes down. Yeah. Like
You're telling me that the playoffs aren't going to be completely injury free as a result of this? I thought we were getting them out of the way early.
You would hope, but it does feel like there's a little bit of rain. When it rains, it pours, and it stinks because last year they were one of the healthiest teams in the league. They just got hurt at the exact wrong time, and now they're not one of the healthiest teams in the league, and we don't know if they're going to get healthy at the right time. And that's just like it's hard to focus too much on it, other than to say that it stinks. And again, the team's going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, anytime there is one of these injuries, there's typically some opportunity that comes with it, right? Like I think even if it's going to hurt the team in the short term, which don't get it twisted, this is going to make the Cavs worse in the short term. I know people have wanted to see, ourselves included, had wanted to see a big leap from Evan Mobley. I would say the last few weeks, it really felt like he was getting back to himself. Not necessarily a leap forward from last year, but play that we are accustomed to seeing from Evan Mobley. He had been much more efficient. Obviously, the defense has been spectacular all season long. Even though it feels sometimes like it's a step back for Mobley, the tracking data, all the impact stats tell you he is still one of the best defenders in the NBA. He just sets a really, really high bar for himself.
And the surrounding context hasn't been as good this year.
Right. Absolutely. So that would actually be where I would point to there being some opportunity, which is we do not have Evan Mobley back there to clean things up for us. We are going to have to collectively be better defensively than we were, over this stretch. And I think sometimes the Cavs do fall victim to counting on Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to clean things up on the defensive end. I thought the game against Charlotte was a very poor defensive effort from them. At least in the middle quarters once again, despite the furious comeback that they had in the fourth. But it's going to force guys to kind of step up, and it's going to cause a little bit of a shuffle in the rotation. You're going to have DeAndre Hunter playing more forward. You're probably going to have a little bit of Jalen Tyson at the 4. That means that there's probably going to be more opportunities for guys like Craig Porter Jr. and Tyrese Proctor to get some run. And it probably means more opportunities for Lonzo Ball to try to get back on the right track here.
Yeah, and even some minutes for Dean at the 5, which is how they closed the most of the fourth quarter and the overtime period. I think another, obvious beneficiary here is Thomas Bryant, who I think continues to give them really good minutes. I've generally been a little surprised he's not getting a little bit more run, just because he is doing a lot of the things you want to see him do. He had 14 against the Hornets. I wouldn't mind seeing them, especially with one of Evan or Jared out. I really wouldn't mind seeing him get near 20. Not a crazy, I'm not saying make him a 30-minute guy. I mean, he's got some limitations, and you don't want to overexpose him, but I think he's just one of the guys who's reliably providing some nasty for them right now, who is talking a lot on defense, and I don't know. I just wouldn't mind seeing it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd be open to it for sure. I do think that there's probably a point of diminishing returns when it comes to his minutes, right?
Like, it probably is right around 14 if we're calling a spade a spade.
Right. So that would be one aspect of it. I know Kenny talked in the post-game press conference about, hey, like Jared's trying to refine his rhythm, right? Like he's been off for a while. It's going to take him some time to get into shape. We felt that the small ball lineup was important for us, that hey, we're not creating advantages, so we kind of need to get more creation onto the floor. We need to get spacing on the floor, having Dean Wade play the 5. And, to their credit, like the defense was really good in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought Lonzo gave them really good possessions on the defensive end. The fourth quarter defense was where it needed to be. It got them back into the game. The defense in overtime was perfectly fine. I think, Charlotte only scored 2 baskets, right? And the rest were free throws. So I thought it's where it needed to be. Personal feeling of mine is that, I understand sticking with the lineup that gets you there, but sometimes you just need to get even a short spell of subbing someone in and kind of changing it up just a little bit, because I definitely thought that they ran out of gas collectively as a group. But maybe
it's that shift up thing that I've talked about.
yeah.
You downshift to get back in it, but eventually you need to stabilize.
Yeah, and just giving the other team a different look, right? And some of it obviously came down to execution. That late game situation where the play very clearly was for Darius to foul on Brandon Miller. It looked like I agree, like he had good defensive position there, but that's not a call you're ever going to get in that spot, right? And you don't want to put it in the ref's hands of, okay, offensive foul. He obviously sold it at the same time. One, you're just not going, like, I don't know if OKC is going to get that whistle in that spot and they get every whistle they want defensively. You're not going to get that call. And when you have the game in your control, that if you just wrap them up, get a proper foul in that situation, you play the free throw game and there's no chance of a 3-pointer. You have to take the option that's under your control. I hate fouling up 3. I hate fouling, down 3 or down a couple possessions. I hate that that's the way some of these games end now. But as long as the rules are this way, that is the smart and correct play to do in that time.
Yeah, and you just can't live in no man's land, which is what the Cavs have done in late game situations a couple times this season. In some of these close games where they don't communicate right, they don't pass off a switch the right way, or they had a couple possessions against the Hornets again where the effort was high, but 2 guys closed out on a corner at the same time. There's just like a lot of that kind of like lack of cohesiveness. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's a bad loss. This Hornets team isn't very good. They were missing a lot of their best players. Let me tell you though, for a brief aside,
were they?
Yeah, they were missing a few. Come on. I had not watched Concanipple yet. I got
really?
Can play. My
gosh. It makes sense why you see the reports that he's the franchise player now in Charlotte. Like that.
Yep, that tracks.
That makes a lot of sense. They've been playing really well without LaMelo, and it was interesting because that lineup that they had was big, right? Like a lot of the times they'll play a similar lineup, but LaMelo doesn't play big. Like he doesn't punish you in that way in any way, shape, or form. Like Darius had to guard Brandon Miller the entire game, and Brandon Miller went 2 of 10 against him. But it was very clear that Charlotte was running a ton of offense at Darius.
Bridges got quite a few ISOs on him too.
Yeah, Bridges had ISOs. Like he defended 21. Like if you're talking about just Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Concanippo, and Zion James, he defended 21 shot attempts.
Wow, they got 98 up as a frame of reference.
Right, and to his credit, in those situations, Charlotte shot 38% on them. Brandon Miller won 2 of 10 against Darius. Like those individual possessions, he held up pretty well. But the one thing I did notice was that there were so many times, and it's not going to get tracked in this stat, where, okay, we do an early switch and all of a sudden we have Bridges posting up Darius. So the Cavs send some help, to help out in that situation because you don't want to leave Darius on an island there. And then the ball just rotates, and it eventually gets to an open shooter, and you kind of lose the integrity. And it gets back to what I've talked about before, which is if you're going to get those switches, if you're going to be a team that switches, make them earn it. Don't pre-switch, don't soft switch, don't do that sort of thing, because it gives them so much time after that advantage has been created that the ball can rotate and eventually find an open shooter. You want to kind of force them to hunt and work for that screen so that when the mismatch comes against Darius, you can send help and all of a sudden there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and there isn't the chance for the pass that leads to 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 the open shot, right? And I thought that happened a few too many times against Charlotte.
Yeah, and then on the back end, like if you're going to do that, then you'd better be really sharp in your closeouts and your rotations. And I think a lot of times, I forget who pointed out, Donovan had a play where he kind of forgot to tag the big man and they got an easy dunk. And I think this team is, like, even at like when they're really expending a lot of effort, they might be a little better at the point of attack. They might be a little better on their first rotation, but every successive step in the like if an offense really makes them guard, 2-3 rotations in, generally something's going to break right now.
Yeah.
Or a bad angle is going to be taken, and it's a defense that really isn't doing a very good job of stopping things early or stopping things late right now, and that's why they're a middle of the pack defense over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and again, I just think that this is an example of how even in a game where Darius does well in isolation defensively, you can have structural breakdowns because of that defensive philosophy, right? Where you are conceding those soft switches. The play where it swung all the way around to Bridges, they even pre-switched it with Dean, where there was just no need to. It was a really poor screen. Darius is a good screen navigator. He could have gone around and stayed on Miller, but they're obviously working through things on the defensive end. I thought it was kind of ironic that in a game where Charlotte went after Darius so heavily, it was actually probably one of his better defensive performances of the year. They ramped that up even further after he aggravated the toe and was down on the ground, right? Anytime you have compromised mobility, teams are going to sniff that out and hunt it. But again, they need to kind of work on their collective communication, be in better places at the right time defensively. It is kind of funny though. I was thinking about this game, and so much of what I was feeling was on the defensive end of the floor. And then I look at, okay, well, what was it actually? Like, what was their defensive rating? It was 111, which would be the second best D rating in the league, right? And again, this is where averages don't tell the full story, because you had a stretch where they were playing really good defense, and then you have these lulls. And I feel that way for almost all of the Cavs averages, where they don't play to their averages. They play considerably better or worse than them, even within an individual game. So I felt
still
like
10th in offense and 8th in defense, by the way.
It got better after that game, right? Like, even though it was a 111 defensive rating, when it was on Darius on the court, it was 108, right? So it's not like, okay, they really got themselves going attacking Darius, but it's, again, gets back to not making teams uncomfortable on the defensive end, right? And when you have to put Donovan on Sion, all of a sudden it opens up these opportunities against a larger team where mismatches are being generated far too easily and frequently.
Yeah. And it didn't help that, that I don't think Jarrett had a very good game, in his return, unfortunately. And DeAndre
had a really bad
DeAndre
game.
had another bad game. So it's the guys that you kind of structurally need to help function as those stoppers just aren't really guys you feel super safe relying on right now. Thank God for Dean Wade, who had an awesome game. And I think he really needed one, for what it's worth. I mean, he's had a really up and down year so far, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So 5 of 9 from the field, hits 3 threes, 14 points, 8 boards. I thought he had a game that I think was kind of important for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're going to need him, right? Whether it's playing alongside Jared Allen, whether it's playing in some of these small ball lineups, because the Cavs are going to need to lean on more offensive heavy lineups with Evan out of the lineup. It's, he's going to need to play well. And we've seen Dean step up in these types of situations in the past, right? Two years ago when Evan and Darius missed time, Dean was one of those guys that played at a really, really high level and helped the Cavs stay afloat. And, I would, when you're talking about who kind of played the worst, DeAndre definitely comes to mind. He is in a slump of all slumps right now. He's pressing. He's doing a little bit too much. The shot hasn't been there. I know Donovan had let's be clear. Donovan had a really bad game, but his comments after the game saying, put it all on my shoulders and whatnot. I appreciate that from a leadership standpoint. But there was one part of that quote where he said, I had a game that I can't have if we need to have a chance to win. No, Donovan can absolutely, any one of these guys should be able to have a game like that against the Charlotte Hornets, even with Evan Mobley out. And there should still be enough support around to help out. Similar to how Darius can go 0 for 11 against Washington. And there was enough help there on the back end and the supporting cast to win a game against a team like that. Like, I think it's actually really illustrative, because I think that's almost a collective mentality where these guys are thinking, man, like I really need to step up. I really need to hit these shots. We are not playing well. And I think it's getting into their collective psyche where, they are just out of rhythm and putting a little bit too much on themselves and pressing at times, and other times just not having the intensity that's required.
Yeah, I mean, there are games, especially for your star player, that you watch and you go, yeah, he lost just the game. And that's not fair. But we've watched a lot of iterations of this team, and there have been absolute games where it's like, yeah, if the star player was a little better, they would have won. But he wasn't, so they didn't. I didn't feel that way about this game. I mean, Donnie had a bad game, don't get me wrong. But I do think a lot of the collective stuff matters more. The fact that Kenny kind of felt like he had to run Lonzo at the 3, Jalen at the 4, and Dean at the 5 for, basically, 12, 13 straight minutes or whatever the final total needed to be, kind of just shows that the rest of the team just kind of wasn't able to get there. And you mentioned DeAndre, and I was pulling it up. The problem is you're just not really seeing much going right. It kind of felt like things started to turn at that Atlanta game where he had a pretty okay box score. He had 16 points on 9 shots, but a lot of the detail stuff wasn't there. And since he had 8 against Boston, 13, 10, 11, 6, 15, and 4. That this team isn't in a spot where they can get that from him. And generally, those are all on, about as many shots as points, and then you're not seeing impact anywhere else either. He has not topped 4 rebounds in a game since Indiana in the NBA Cup game on November 21st. So Kenny got asked in the post game, hey, are you thinking about maybe moving DeAndre back to a 6-man role? And he said he hadn't really thought about it yet. This is something we talked about. I gotta tell you, dude, I'm feeling a little stronger that, when this team is fully healthy, or even when they're semi-healthy, Jalen, I just think is straight up out playing the guy. And Jalen had 13 boards in this game. He is averaging 9 rebounds in the month of December right now. And 17 points. He's averaging 17.5 points, 9 rebounds, 2.5 assists. That's starter production.
Yeah.
Not to mention just the general spirit stuff, which the team still is really having a hard time finding. I just keep going back to Jalen's certainly going to close every game for the short term future, it seems. But I'm starting to wonder if he should be starting him too.
I'm just so happy. Look at you getting won over by Jalen Tyson. I love to see this. I agree. And, the other variable here is, even though we don't know what Max is going to look like when he's back, if he does look like himself, we do know that is a very, very viable option. That is someone that brings a lot of intensity onto the court. That's someone who talks a ton defensively. That man never shuts up out there. And we know that come playoff time, that's still a very, very good fit with that starting unit, right? So they do have options here. There's things that they can go to. Kenny did mention in the press conference that even though he hasn't thought about it, they are always open to all possibilities, which I think is one of the good things about this coaching staff. That's one of those spots where I just assume that there's some positive regression, but I actually, because I'm a sicko, I went back and I listened to our post DeAndre trade podcast a little bit, just some of the analysis there. And, we talked about how the impact defensively isn't as great as some people perceive, right? Like he is a good individual defender, but the team defense, there's always a little bit that's lacking. The rebounding isn't necessarily there. The main value is as a shot maker, right? As a very tall shot maker. And right now, those shots aren't falling. And you're just not seeing some of those supplemental traits like you talked about with Jalen Tyson of attacking the boards, creating extra opportunities, just the intensities. Like even some of those late game moments, like that amazing pass that Darius threw to Tyson and to finish in the paint, like that's a mature play from a second year player.
Yeah, and I also will say, like, I think DeAndre is letting this affect everything because, like,
without a doubt,
even the on-ball defense, I think, has been pretty limited. He's getting
it's fallen off. Like the tracking data
guys
is
who
coming down a little bit.
Yeah, guys who shouldn't be turning the corner are turning the corner right now, and so like I want to give him some grace. He's obviously in a funk, but like while the team is struggling this bad, and looking for something this. Like, it's just hard to give him, the 30 minutes guaranteed on a night-to-night basis. I mean, I was honestly proud of Kenny for just saying, hey, man, it's kind of not your night, and rolling with the guys who had gotten them back into the game with regards to DeAndre. But, they can't afford 33-20 shooting splits from a guy that really needs to be scoring and bucket getting for them. And not even a lot, also not a lot of free throws either. It's like we're just not. I just think he's a little bit lost. And I don't think he's a guy who's going to stay lost. Like, this isn't who he has been in his career. I think that's a really important distinction to make. Last year, I think what he was doing with Atlanta was certainly the best he's ever looked, but he's never looked like this. So I think any smart mind should look at DeAndre Hunter's play in the month of December and go, this probably isn't forever. But that doesn't mean that, the team shouldn't be considering all options, because I just don't think they have the luxury, Like, they're not playing well enough to be like, well, you figure it out on your own time. Like, they might have to tweak some things.
In many ways, it kind of encapsulates what the team as a whole is going through, right? Like even Donovan said, we're not hitting our shots and it's impacting our energy on the defensive end. Like I would say these last couple games, they've actually come out with the proper defensive energy. Like I know Charlotte did score a lot in the first quarter, but some of those were contested or very deep jump shots. There were a few breakdowns.
By Zion James.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. There were breakdowns and kind of late contest situations, but it wasn't what happened wasn't reflective of their defensive effort. But I think you saw it bled into the offensive end where they're not hitting shots, and then the defensive effort drops out, and then comes the fourth quarter and they ramp that energy right back up. And, as much as DeAndre isn't playing poorly, I just completely disagree with Donovan. Like, I'm not putting it on Donovan's shoulders. I'm not putting it on DeAndre's shoulders. You win as a team, you lose as a team. Basketball is a collective sport. And sometimes teams just need a little bit of extra help. And that's where Zoom Workplace comes in handy, because teams move fastest when everybody's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. I do think I did a little bit of a stats dive because, I didn't want to sit here and talk about effort and energy and when are they going to turn it around, because we've talked about that on the last few podcasts. The players are talking about it. There isn't interesting conversations to be had there. But I did want to see, how does this actually translate to the numbers? And I was thinking back to the mailbag podcast we did before Thanksgiving, where we're saying, hey, the offensive profile, not as healthy as it could be, but these changes on the defensive end are paying some dividends, right? Like they're keeping teams out of transition more frequently. They are allowing fewer corner 3-point attempts, right? Like there was some tangible evidence that things were working. So I went back and looked at that data to see how that went. And it's really, really funny because the defensive kind of and offensive profiles have basically flipped. They are allowing far more corner 3-point attempts. In fact, only the games against Atlanta and Boston were ones where it was like, okay, like they didn't allow a ton of corner threes. I think the Boston game in particular, like they only allowed like it was like 9th percentile in the positive direction. So I guess 91st percentile in terms of how many they shot. But every single one of these games, other than those two, opponents are taking more than 45% of their 3-point attempts from the corners. That is just unsustainable. And that's one of those situations where the shot profile for your opponents is going to contribute to the stuff that some might call shot luck, right? Because if you're giving up these higher quality attempts and you're not making teams feel uncomfortable, teams are going to shoot better than average against you.
Yeah, and I think it's a real symptom of some of the overhelping, but even more than that, dude, it's so hard to, like, defense especially, man, is so chicken or the egg for me, because it's like the ball, you know, like stopping the ball still is just so bad for this team right now. Like they're not guarding very well on the point of attack. So it's like, did you give up the corner three because you overhelped? Or if you didn't overhelp, would they just yam the ball over and over and over and over again? Would they just get constant and ones if you rotated a little late? Because like you do need a little bit of resistance on the way to on their way to the hoop, just to give the help defender time to slide over or get back, depending on where you are in the play. So I don't know. What do you think it's what do you think the biggest culprit is for that change? Is it aimless energy or unfocused energy, or do you think it's just like, well, of course they're giving up corner threes, the defense getting sucked in on every single dribble drive?
I think it's a little column A, a little column B. Sometimes I think it's being a little too aggressive on the defensive end, right? Trying to make up for some mistakes that they've had defensively, and it leads to breakdowns. I think some of it has been playing guys that aren't as experienced, right? Like Naquan Tomlin, we love his energy, but he makes mistakes on the defensive end. Jalen Tyson makes off-ball mistakes defensively. Darius, we've talked about him before. He's not playing the same level of defense that we've seen from him the last couple of years. That one's at least understandable. We know what's going on there, right? Like it's his mobility isn't as good as it's been because he's playing through the toe. But Donovan's not playing as well defensively, right? Like you're seeing some drop off there. So I do think a lot of it comes down to energy because we see it in spurts. But one of the tougher things when you're looking at this stretch, which if you wanted to, you could spin it as a positive. But one of the tougher things from an analysis standpoint is it's almost never the same thing, right? Like quarter to quarter, sometimes the breakdowns are happening in different ways. The issues are different. So if you want to look at the bright side of the bus over here with me, you could say, well, they've done what they've needed to do, right? Like they've shown it in spurts. They just have to do it more consistently. If you want to look over at the shady mountain on the other side of the bus, you could say, well, anytime they focus on one thing, they use up all of their energy and they break down in other ways, right? So I do think energy is a big part of it. I think communication's a big part of that. Even though Jarrett doesn't talk as much as I would like, he talks more than Evan on the defensive end. So I think having him back is going to pay some dividends. But as a collective, they do need to get much, much better when it comes to communicating and understanding where they need to be on the defensive end.
Yeah. I just pulled up a stat while you're talking about Jarrett. I just pulled up his page just to check on some stuff. He's averaging more points per game this season than last season. I really was floored by that. I mean, the rebounding's way, way, way down, and that's probably the spot where you really feel it. And the field goal percentage is way, way, way down for Jarrett by a pretty bananas degree. It's the worst shooting year of his career so far, which, nice to have fingers that work. Like I asked someone because he didn't play very many minutes in that game, and I asked a friend, like, hey, what do you think's going on with Jared? Just kind of feels like he hasn't been there. They go, his fingers don't work. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
yeah.
Like it's probably more complicated than that, but like that does matter. It matters to have good fingers when you are a big who gets all their points almost exclusively off of their touch.
And it's the double standard for us as fans, right? Like we want guys to play through injuries, but when they're not at 100% playing through injuries, we go, oh, well, like, What are you doing? You're supposed to, you know, whether it's Darius and his toe, whether it's Jared and his hands, plural, you know, that's going to have some impact.
His fingers hurt. Let's get the Happy Gilmore clip up. It's going to be pulling landscaping duty here pretty soon. In general, so the defensive end, obviously the profile's changed a little bit, giving up way more corner threes. What about on the offensive end? Because I know you did quite the dive there as well.
So I did find this really interesting because the 3-point frequency has gone way down overall since Thanksgiving when we're looking at this time. Like the 3-point frequency is actually below 37%. And in almost every game except for the Boston, Washington, and Portland games. Those were the three that they took a ton of threes. But outside of that, they've actually been below league average in 3-point frequency since Thanksgiving. Probably makes a little bit of sense because they're not hitting their shots, so you're not going to take as many. But that's come down. They're not just settling for those kind of lazy shots that we felt earlier in the season. And then I said, well, are they generating shots at the rim? You know, are they attacking the rim with a decent frequency? And the reality is they've been getting to the rim at a higher rate in almost all of these games, with the exception of the Washington and Portland game. They've been getting at the rim at a higher frequency than they did last season, like their season-long average for rim percentage. So the profile has changed, right? Like it's not that they are doing the same things over and over again from the beginning of the season and they're struggling. The problem is they're not making their shots at the rim. They're not shooting well from the outside. And if you ask yourself, does that added rim pressure, does that generate open shots? They are getting over that stretch 20.8 wide open threes a game where no defender is within 6 feet. That is more than they had last season. The difference is this over that stretch, they're shooting 35.5% on those 3-point attempts, whereas last year they shot 42% on those attempts. That is like that alone, even with the defensive issues, that's the kind of change that could like dramatically change how we feel about these games.
Yeah, man, it sucks because like their offensive process is better. You know, like on balance, it's better. And they are 30, 29, 28, 20, 26th in the league in field goal percentage at the rim, less than 5 feet. Per NBA.com right now. They're shooting 60% like since Thanksgiving. Boston, for a frame of reference, is shooting 80%. So and the Cavs are 5th in attempts at the rim. So like things are changing. They are finding the road to rim pressure. It's a great poll from you, by the way, because while I moped and was sad, you actually did homework, and I'm proud of you. But like you know, I do think this is a good indicator that, like, you know, sunny days may be coming, you know, when they get some shooting talent back on the floor and Sam and Max, when they get Darius kicking back up, when DeAndre gets out of his slump, because really it's been Donnie. Donnie's the only guy who can shoot on this team right now.
Hey, Jalen Tyson erasure.
Sorry.
I thought I won you over to the good side here.
Yeah, so sorry. I forgot Jalen. He's also shooting the cover off the ball still. But like, you know, especially for the high volume shooters, let's say it's been Donnie. And like the fact that I do feel like the looks are better. It just, you know, right now they're in a point of the season where nothing's going right. And every ball is leaving almost everyone's hands. Just like the second it leaves their hands, I'm like, nope. Yeah, that's a bad place to be right now. But like that's why you work towards this. And I'd be really interested to hear, to ask Kenny again. Wish we were in market about those rim attempts going way, way, way up. It's like, well, things did change. It hasn't really bore fruit yet. Maybe some of that, by the way, is a personnel thing. You know, Isaac was always a very good finisher at the rim. Ty Jerome was a killer in floater range last year.
Yeah.
So like, and you know, a guy like Lonzo isn't really able to like, but that feels like that doesn't feel right.
Darius isn't taking as many either, right? Like it
feels like the bigs are missing bunnies right now.
Right. Well, Jarrett's field goal percentage, right? Like that's come down, right? Like Evans wasn't getting as many of those low hanging fruit possessions either, right? So there's a whole variety of factors there. I just thought this was important because you want to see, like, is there a material change, right? Like, are they just playing the same way and there's no effort going towards trying to problem solve and be proactive here? And you are seeing a shift. Now, the one thing I would say regarding these stats is just because the averages are trending towards this way, I still do feel like there are times where the rim pressure bottom falls out, right? Like where, okay,
Yep.
we had a 6 minute stretch here where we're really not getting into the paints, right? So on average, the profile is changing. It's getting to a healthier spot. I think we can feel good about that. And I think some of that we can attribute now to shooting variance, right? In the past, I didn't feel like we were getting quality looks. We weren't getting easy shots at the basket. All of that is changing. I think you can count on some of that trending in the right direction. The other component that is under their control is maintaining this approach offensively, right? And I think that can be said about the offense. That can be said about the defense, that when they have success, they sometimes get away from that. Whether it's personnel, whether it's effort, whatever you want to attribute it to, they don't sustain their best traits when they do find something.
Yeah, I think you're dead on here. And some of it, I think you almost just need one of them to start working, whether it's the rim attempts or the 3-point attempts, to start ticking up. Because like if you start killing them at the rim, then those threes don't feel so important. You start hitting the threes, then they start panicking and flying out. I don't even think the Cavs are getting a lot of hard closeouts right now.
No.
So it's like at the end of the day, like it is a make or miss league, and like they got to make, or none of this matters. There's no effort button or tweak that you can make, and the fact that they still have a top 10 offense despite having all these limitations that they've been facing pretty much all year goes to show you just how high the floor for the team really is. Because it feels like, well, I'll ask you this: does it feel like the offensive outcomes are going about as bad as they could be expected to go? Like, do you feel like they're performing at their offensive floor just from a shot making perspective?
No. Like,
you think it could be worse?
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Like, their expected field goal percentage indicates this is a team that should have, based on the quality of their shots, based on who is taking their shots, they should be performing better than this.
So I would say that they are performing about at their floor right now, about as bad as the offense should be, and they're 10th in the league. So, it doesn't take...
the defense has been shaky, and it's 8th in the league, right? Like,
it doesn't take much for these guys.
Year for NBA defenses in general. Like, it's not a Cavs specific issue.
Yeah. So, but like all that to say, like they're not far. They're really not. And like, and honestly, Justin, before you pulled those stats about the rim pressure, I don't know if I realized just how much they had changed their profile in the last couple weeks. So good pull to you. I think, it gives me some positive momentum that like, okay, they're going, if they can get healthy, if they can just play to their talent level, because like I think on balance, their energy on offense is better than their energy on defense. Like, and I think those metrics you pulled kind of reflects that, at least at the last couple weeks. I don't know if I would have said that at the beginning of the year, but I think the last couple weeks, like, I generally am not sitting here pulling my hair out watching them play offense. Other until the shot goes up, I'm not pulling my hair out. Once the shot goes up, I'm pulling my hair out. But like, so like, I think that is a worthy thing to cling to. We're kind of in any port in a storm territory right now. Yeah. With how the season's gone, and that's a piece of driftwood I'll hold on to right now.
Yeah, and if there was a time for Evan to miss, I think the only way that this could have been better is if it popped up before they had 5 days off, right? Like that would have been nice, but It is an easier schedule. We do know that they could lose to any of these teams. They almost lost to Washington. They lost to Charlotte. Like we know that we shouldn't take any of these for granted, but there is more margin for error to try to figure things out and get things right than there would be if they were playing OKC and San Antonio and Houston. And I know some of those teams show up a little later this month, but at least it does give you a bit of an opportunity to get things trending in the right direction. So
did you watch that OKC San Antonio game?
Oh, it was amazing.
Oh my gosh. It was like, I feel like if I were like grumpy about like the level of compete, which I know Kenny's been over the course of the year, I just show him the fourth quarter. Just be like, do that. Because like that felt like a playoff game. Yeah. Both those teams wanted to. I'm a cup defender. Lump me in with Stan Van Gundy.
I am too. I'd still make a few tweaks.
Yeah, sure.
I did see Tim Bontemps was mentioning that the championship game might not be in Vegas next year, which would be interesting. I want to see crowds. Like I want to see, the home crowds. I want more energy than what we got there off of the court. But yeah, those teams are fantastic. But again, this time last year, the Cavs, got a massive win over OKC. They were rolling. Things looked good. The Indiana Pacers were below 500 and looked like crap. And Tyrese Halliburton couldn't get healthy. A whole lot can change. And, OKC's playing at a historic level. Like the reality is OKC's OKC is the best team that in the league this season. They're one of the best teams that we've ever seen. The Cavs' goal should be put themselves in position to play spoiler, right? If you get some breaks along the way, be the 2019 Raptors, right? Like that's the goal. If somehow the Cavs turn it around and they win a championship this year, it's going to be a year where the best team didn't win the championship. But sometimes there's a 70-win team that the whole world wants stopped, and it falls on the shoulders of the Cleveland Cavaliers to do it. So, maybe history will repeat itself. Maybe they can, turn things around. But for now, we got to compartmentalize, man. Like, it sucks. Evan Mobley's going to miss some time. They're not playing well. They have a long, long way to go before they can even think about, with how they're currently playing, advancing a single round. It would not be a given, right? So there's a whole lot of work to do, but there's a whole lot of time for them to figure it out as well. So we will see if this improved offensive profile pays some dividends eventually, that they eventually start hitting some shots, that bleeds over to the defense, and then they start looking more consistently like the Cavs team that we know and recognize.
Yeah, man. And you look at the East, it's still wide open. The South, you look up.
They're a game out of third?
Yeah, they were one game out of third because everyone else in the East is just in utter free fall. The Raptors have lost 4 in a row. The Heat have lost 4 in a row. The Sixers are 5-5 in their last 10. Orlando's 6-4 in their last 10 and have just been taking injuries left and right. Like, they're not that. I mean, they're pretty far away from Detroit. We're moving and we're moving towards it'll be hard to catch them territory here if the league gets much bigger. But a home court at least through the first round is not that far away.
Yeah. We'll see. That's a lot of time between now and then. But as I said, a lot of work to do. We will be going live on Thursday, talking about the Chicago game, talking about both Chicago games, because we'll have one to recap and one to preview. So big thanks to everyone tuning in live on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the video to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.